if you look at last 8 to 10 years, Lava is a 8.5-year-old company. And in front of my own eyes, I've seen some of the giants really disappearing from the scene. People losing market share from 80% going all the way to 0. But all that is happening in this industry, right? So a lot of action here. So what I'm going to do is, we are also 8.5-year-old company, and we have survived so long, while some of the biggest brands have totally disappeared. What is it that makes us stick to this industry and makes us grow every year in this particular industry, which is very, very volatile? So I'm reminded of one story. It's a short one. There's this conversation between a fish and a turtle. And when turtle goes in the water and it has a conversation with the fish, and fish asks him, "Where did you come from?" He said, "I come from the land." And then fish starts asking questions about land. He says, "Oh, do you have a lot of water there?" The turtle says, "No, on land there's no water." "Okay, is it very deep?" He said, "No, it's not deep." Do you have fishes and whales and sharks over there?" He says, "No." So the problem is that the fish is not able to think beyond the reference point that it has. And that's where the problem starts. So in this industry, people have always had reference points which is with respect to each other, with respect to the competition, not really thinking of ways which can go beyond and create value for the consumers. That's something we have tried to do in our journey of last 8.5 years, and that's why we are one of the top 5 brands in the country as of now. So we have 2 brands. Not many people know that Xolo is a part of Lava International Limited, and it was intended to be kept that way because we created for a different segment of customers, and that's how it was done. Okay, so talking about our industry, I think there are a lot of challenges that I would like to talk about. There are rapid technology changes happening in the industry. This is, at the core, it's a technology industry. A lot of new things happening, a lot of new innovations happening on technology front. That keeps you on the edge all the time. The product life cycles are very short. So people change their phones in 5 months, 6 months. In fact, in certain cases, people finish their toothpaste later and buy a new phone before that, right? It's as fast as that. It's as FMCG as that. The products are very transparent. It's not a soap that you go out and buy and you don't know what's gone into making the soap. Here you know what RAM you're buying, you know what camera you're buying, you know what display you're buying. It's totally transparent. The consumer actually knows what he or she is paying for. Demonstration-based selling, which is again a difference on one end while it is FMCG, but on the other side, you also have to demonstrate to the customers on the experience of the phone. That brings another challenge to us. Different markets, one brand. So while in FMCG sector you have brands for different segments of customers, here you run with one brand across entire complete market. Multiple channels, multiple prices is another challenge that we face. And of course, the customer is evolving all the time. I remember when smartphones first came, the meaning of smartphone to a consumer was that you could play Angry Birds on it, right? That's what a smartphone meant at that point in time. But today, smartphone has got a lot of meaning to it, and the kind of stuff that happens on smartphone today is amazing. What is happening on the disruption? So, a lot of innovation, a lot of sameness, which means the innovation lasts only for a few weeks. What you can make today, I can bring it exactly in few weeks. I can exactly replicate that. So it's not, technology is not something that somebody has a total control on. So that makes it a lot more difficult to really innovate on the hardware side. So what did Lava think of doing in this market? So we have been very clear right from the start that our sweet spot is for the consumers who are seeking value. And how do we do that? We find a way to make aspirational technologies accessible to consumers at the bottom of the pyramid, at the mid of the pyramid. We're not really focusing on top of the pyramid because that's something that we are not intending to get into at the moment. So that's why we chose a certain sweet spot for ourselves, and that's where we have been operating in for the last eight and a half years. There are a lot of myths in this industry. People tell you, okay, this doesn't work in this industry. Only that works in this industry. In fact, in the last 8.5 years, we have tried to change some of these things and really challenge some of these myths, and I'm going to present to you some of those things that we have done in the last 8.5 years. Myth number one is don't disturb the value chain. A value chain is supposed to add value. But if you are going to if your objective is to deliver value to the consumer, you have to start re-engineering the entire value chain. And that's what we have done. In this country, even today, all other brands, all other companies work on a multi-layered distribution system. There is a national distributor, then there's a sub-distributor, then there is a local distributor, and the value chain is pretty long. Right from the start, we broke this chain into one single layer. So we have, from the company, we directly go to the distributor, and distributor goes directly to the retailer. So we don't have two more layers in between, because eventually, whatever you spend in that chain in the middle has to finally get passed on to the consumer. So that's what we have been trying to do. Second thing, cash and carry. You have to keep your business healthy. Every brand, every company in this category gives stocks to distributors on credit. And for us, right from day one, we have done cash and carry model. A business model from day one has been cash and carry model. And this credit system works all the way from Apple down the line to the smallest player in the industry. But we are the only one who stand out, because that's something that we started from day one. This helps us get some more money which can be used to pass on the value to the consumers. Number two, high price means you can get high quality only if your price is high. Otherwise, if you're looking for a low cost phone, you better put up with the low quality phones. But that's something that we don't believe in. In fact, and also the quality does not come by itself. It's not a statement of intent. You have to actually do work on the ground. Among Indian players, we are the only company today which has a complete end-to-end control on the entire product making system. So right from conceptualization of the product to research and design, to manufacturing, to sales, to distribution, to marketing, everything. We are only one Indian brand which has a total control on the entire chain. So that's what helps us bring better quality for the consumers. And we believe that quality is not a trade-off for price. So it's something that it does not mean somebody who's buying a 500 rupees phone, 600 rupees phone, he does not need a quality phone. But that's the perception people carry, that if it's going to be lower end, okay, you can do some compromise on the quality. So that's something that we don't do. Bottom of the pyramid only cares about price, right? So that's another myth that this industry has. Now let's look at the bottom of the pyramid. There are 30% of consumers in the country who buy phones below the price of 1,000 rupees. So that's huge, right? And below 2,000 rupees phones, the total number is 55% of the total industry. So it's as large as that, right? Now, why is it that I'm saying that people are seeking value even at the bottom of the pyramid? Is because this industry, this particular segment, where Lava is number one today, we are the market leaders in this particular segment. This market used to be 50% gray market phones. So people would go out in the shops because they had lesser money, and they would buy a phone and not get a warranty with it. And if anything went wrong with it, it was okay. But over time, things have changed. That particular market has now gone down to 20%, which means that people are looking for higher value, and they don't mind paying a little bit higher price for that. So that's what happens at the bottom of the pyramid customers. Price is the balancer of value. So you build value, and then you price it according to that. And you keep the consumer at the center of it. What do you see different in this phone? This is a feature phone, around I think 1,500-1,600 rupees phone. And this particular phone was launched before I joined this company 7 years back. And this phone has till now sold 10 million units through its life cycle right from the start. There is no other phone in the country, perhaps no other phone in the world, which has lasted so long. Just one single phone. And you'll be surprised, the reason for its such high acceptability of this phone is a simple innovation on the touchpad. It has got a checkered touchpad. That's all that we have done in this phone. Apart from, of course, the phone is, in terms of quality, etc., it's pretty good. But for this reason, we are able to command 5 to 10% premium over every other competitor we have for this particular phone. So therefore, innovation is not always about spending a lot of money. It's also about sometimes getting it right for the consumers. And that's something that they will give you a lot more money than you really think of getting. So that's the story of this particular phone. This phone is called KKD34. Even the name itself is not very interesting, right? So even then, this is the highest selling phone in the country. We also have a belief in this category that in a particular segment, all consumers behave alike. It's a homogeneous group of people who sit in a particular price segment. So how we worked on, what we figured out is that Lava was pretty strong at the bottom. Lava was doing pretty fine in the middle, in the entry-level smartphones. But we had a challenge in the mid segment, because that's where multinational companies were very strong. So there were two types of brands: multinational, high technology, high price, and then there were Indian brands which were struggling in the middle segment. We identified two separate psychographic segments within this price segment, and then created two separate brands. One was Lava, which is the mother brand, and then we created Xolo, which was meant for a different segment of customers. I'll come to that. In this case, the consumer who was buying Lava just wanted a phone, a smartphone. He was looking for a smartphone. He was not very aware of what is happening on the technology. At a certain price, he's looking for a smartphone. He knows Lava, therefore he goes and buys it out. Mostly in tier 3 rural customers is what Lava was getting as customers. Then we looked at another consumer who was young, lived in urban areas, was excited about technology, and spent more time in online. At that time, we clearly positioned Xolo in this space. We said there are Indian brands who are giving low cost and are low on technology. On the other side, you have MNC brands who are high on technology and high on cost as well. So we found a space for ourselves right in the middle, wherein we brought in the latest technologies and made it accessible to consumers. It's not as low as Indian brands, but somewhere which was reasonably fair price to charge from the consumers. And we got tremendous success on this brand for this particular segment. Disruption is a threat, not an opportunity. We actually saw an opportunity in disruption. There was a huge disruption that happened in the mid segment that I showed to you. And in that, how we behaved to make sure that we are using that disruption as an opportunity and not as a threat is what we did. This is how a typical Xolo customer looked like. Totally urban. In fact, the top 5 cities contributed close to 50% of our sales. And all of it, the rest of it was in all urban India, which was the intent of the brand in terms of positioning. Now what happened is, the online disruption happened. There are players like Xiaomi and other such players who came into the market, and they dropped the price dramatically. In fact, there was close to 20% delta between what we were selling the phones at and what the online brands were selling at. So how do you handle such a situation, right? On top of that, now the dichotomy was that if you continued to sell online as well as offline, because the kind of consumer we were getting was moving online, because more aware, technology savvy. So when they saw something of more value on online, they started moving there. In fact, it started impacting our share. So what we did is that we moved the brand totally online, because there was a conflict of channel. If you sold the phone at a certain price on online and the same price the offline guy had to sell it, then we were not making money, the retailer was not making money, nobody was making money. So you had to take that tough call. Therefore, because we had two brands, we moved where the customer was moving. Customer was moving to online for Xolo, and we also moved to online. That's the kind of nimbleness that we showed at that point in time when this particular disruption happened. So what was the opportunity there? Like I said, 30% of the consumers today buy online when it comes to smartphones, and 70% are offline. So therefore, we demarcated the two brands very clearly, saying that Xolo will be an online player and Lava will be an offline player, because 70% market still exists in offline and 30% exists in online. So that's how we split ourselves. Of course, we all think that innovation comes at a cost. I just gave you one example of that touch phone, that feature phone, which is the highest selling one. But apart from that, some of the things that we did. So in the country, we were the first to get the 4G feature phone. So when there was a 4G wave coming in, and we realized that our consumers would want to get onto the 4G bandwagon. So therefore, we were the first in the country to bring up something at a very reasonable price for the consumers. On the Xolo side, we did some of exciting partnerships. So you don't have to, when it comes to innovation, you don't have to build everything yourself. There are partnerships that you can do, because of which you can create innovations. So Intel partnership for Xolo was one such example. Apart from that, for example, we did partnership with Intel, we did partnership with NVIDIA, we did partnership with Windows, AMD. We also had our partnership with Liverpool Football Club. So this is all because of the consumer that we are targeting, who was tech savvy, urban, etc. For him, this mattered a lot. But on the other side, for Lava, you had to do some associations, some mass associations, so that you can be seen as a brand who you can pay a little premium for. And this is something that where Lava stands today as a group company. We emerged as top Indian mobile brand last 7 years. Highest reach of distribution, we have got 165,000 retail outlets where we sell from. We became a $2 billion company last year. This is worldwide. There are other countries also where we operate in, and around 20 million handsets shipped last year. So that's the scale at which we operate in. And Lava is also now one of the leading players in Mexico, Thailand, Middle East, Egypt, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and we are also expanding to Egypt. Egypt is going to be now, it's getting launched, got launched last month, and we're doing pretty fine there. So what happens in the future? So this is something that we did in the last 7 and a half, 8 years. What is going to happen in the future? Online is getting big, right? I think at some point in time, all this is going to converge. There's going to be convergence, like the graph shows, that at some point in time, there's going to be a 50-50 split in future for offline and online. So what happens then? How are we as a company gearing up for such a challenge? Because it's always going to be some price arbitrage between the two channels. So what is it that we will do? So we are looking for an omni-channel strategy for both the brands. But before that, this is one data point which we looked at and realized that there's something that we have to do here. That there are 77% online purchasers. They do their research offline and then buy online, which means they really want a touch and feel of the phone. They do not want to buy something that they have not felt or touched themselves, right? So therefore, there is a large segment of customers who still have that particular need. So how do you really make this channel system irrelevant and give the opportunity for both the segments to buy your phones and not make it exclusive online and exclusive offline? So we would at some point in time want to converge the two and deliver value to the consumers on both the channels. So what we are doing is, we are doing two things. One, on Lava, we are going to retail directly through our using technology. So therefore, we are one layer that we had earlier of distributors, that is also being now taken care of through technology, and we'll be reaching directly to retailers, which reduces one more layer in the entire value chain. And for Xolo, because Xolo is an online brand, we are going to be creating something called direct to retail. A direct to retail is a concept where it's like a e-commerce platform for retailers, wherein you don't have to go to a distributor. You buy stocks from that online platform. We deliver it to you in a certain time period, you get the same price that you get on an online platform, and you get the margin that you're looking for on, from your retail shop. So that's going to be the future of retail in this country, and that's something that we are working on. We are the first to start off something like this, and that's going to happen pretty soon. One more information point is that why do we think brands like us have a good chance in future in this industry? If you look at the history of manufacturing in the world, right from US, when it was in US, it created brands out of US. When it moved to Japan, it created brands like Sony from Japan. When it moved to Korea, it created brands like Samsung, LG. And when it moved to Taiwan, it created brands like MediaTek, who are a huge tech company. And when it moved to China, you have the likes of Oppo and Vivo, who are doing pretty well today, right? Now the manufacturer has moved to India. And we believe now it's the chance for Indian brands to come to the global scale, because the entire ecosystem is now available for Indian brands to make a mark at the world scale. That was not happening till now because we did not have ecosystem. The ecosystem is going to be available shortly, and maybe in the next 10 years time, you will have some very big brands coming out of India. That's all. Thank you so much.